Welcome to today's social system mapping OnRamp session for April 11th, 2022. The thing I want up. Okay, there we go. Give me a second. So your hosts today are me, Christine Capra, co-founder of sumApp and Greater Than the Sum, and Kara Martner, who is our tech support and our producer and partner in lots of things that I do. And so for those of you who are new to this, I want to just give you a little bit of background on what this is, so that you can decide if this is where you want to be right now. This is partly about a vision, is partly a vision about a possibility, and the possibility is that social system mapping can help us to shift from systems of dominance to systems of connection more wisely and quickly and effectively. And so this is us sort of leaning into that possibility. It's also an opportunity to learn about social system mapping, about why and about the excuse me, I need to slow down, I got sped up. And about so it's an opportunity to learn about social system mapping and about the theory that informs social system mapping, and that helps us, that sort of supports the vision, and that we use to read and get value from our social system maps. It's also an opportunity to contribute your own experience to our learning and field building, because if you're here, that tells me that you have your own experience in social change and working collaboratively in groups. And so it's an opportunity for us to learn from you as well. Formal ways that happens. Next week, we're going to have we have a deep dive session on the third Monday of every month. Next week, we're going to talk about roles in networks. We're going to sort of explore the kinds of roles that people bring that motivate people to be in networks, and that they want to, what it is they want to do when they show up, who they want to be in a network. And so we're going to look at that both in context of any networks, your networks, other networks, but also in the context of our specific social system map, because we need to update that in our map. And so we thought this is a good opportunity to both look at it for our sake, get some input from people, as well as look at it in a larger context. Next, May 2nd, which is the first Monday of the month, we do a basic sense making session, in which we look at usually using human systems dynamics models and methods, and apply them to a social system map to help us all learn how to sort of surface the value and the potential that we see in mapping. So this is a community of practice and a community of field building, and mapping, social system mapping is at the core of it, but a lot of the people in this community are not explicitly mappers. They're also people who are interested in the field, people who are contributing to the field, people who are interested in bringing mapping into other contexts, or who people are just sort of curious and think this is cool and want to sort of hang out. So that's what this is. This is one piece of this larger context. There's also a lot going on sort of in the background right now about creating more structure and more transparency, and helping to make it easier for people to become part of the actual workings of this network, which you'll hear more about. So I just want to sort of point out that that's coming, and we're sort of still figuring out how to fit that all into these sessions. But that's what this is. And today's agenda is, we're going to do some chat intros in a moment. For the most part, today's agenda is about this map that Lisa Negstad is going to share with us, which is the Human Systems Dynamics Practitioners Network Map. So Lisa will present for a bit. We'll stop and she'll pause, and we'll have room for questions and answers throughout. And then, so the formal session is always designed to go from the top of the hour, whatever hour it is where you are right now, to the top of the next hour. So it goes for an hour, but we always stick around for an extra half hour. At least I do, and a handful of us do, so that if there's something that came up for you that you really want to push on or explore, or, just have an informal conversation, get to know whoever hangs out a little better, that you can just stick around for that half hour after we have a little goodbye ritual we'll do at the top of the hour, and you just stay after that if you want to. So, and Lisa's not going to stick around with us, but I'll still be here, and we'll see who else shows up. Okay, so let's just go ahead and start with some chat intros. First one being, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So we're looking at, hang on a second. We're looking at our chat instead of my screen. But the first, just put into the chat your name, your pronoun, your location, as much of that as you feel like. There are no demands here. Anything I suggest is just a suggestion. If you don't want to do it, please don't, for whatever reason. Yeah, so we have a handful of Minneapolitans here today. Tiernan's in Chicago, not in Colorado, excuse me. Yes, another Minneapolitan by Powderhorn Park. All of you other Minneapolitans besides me are clustered or sort of close to Powderhorn Park. Kate is in Alaska. Sandra's in Ontario. Brian's in California. Henrik's in Germany. Jim's in California. We have people from all over, which is always cool and interesting. And I love all the different perspectives that we get from the different, different contexts, different neighborhoods, et cetera, or different just geographies. So the next question is, what's one primary network that you are part of or working with? So as you're thinking about social system mapping, what's kind of like the top of mind in terms of a network for you? Maybe a client, might be one you're deeply embedded in. Go ahead and put that in the chat. Nice. Priya, like that. Water. Choir singers. That's a new one, Kristen. At least a new one that I've heard of from you. And two water perspectives, one in Canada and one in Germany. Cool. Okay, and then and wildfire. Seems like water and wildfire have been sort of growing as topics that I'm seeing more frequently. Next question is, one last one is, what's one thing you're hoping to discover in today's session? And again, optional. Okay, Henrik, we'll get you an intro and an overview. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to just give you a brief, really, this is a super high level. What social system mapping, not what it is, not why it is. We have other sessions where we will focus on that more, but this is, I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen briefly. Just so you understand that sort of the fundamental technical piece of what a social system map, what generates a social system map. And so the first, so there's two platforms that we use for creating a social system map. One is sumApp, which is a platform that my spouse and I built and have been continuing to develop and work on for like 7 or 8 years now. And the other platform is Kumu, which is a data visualization, a network graph data visualization platform. So Kumu came a little before sumApp, and we were working in Kumu and really liked it. Kumu is basically a platform. It's public. Anyone can get a subscription to it and visualize all kinds of different kinds of graph visualizations. A graph is anything with dots and lines. So system maps, network maps, idea maps, concept maps, asset maps, et cetera, all can be made in Kumu. But there was a thing that we wanted to be able to do, which was to be able to map people and the activities they were working on and the assets that they brought to the table, maybe in terms of skills, maybe in terms of other kinds of assets, and get that information from the people themselves in a way that was updatable and that was iteratable, so you could, learn as you go, and structure that data so that it would go right into Kumu, so that you could see it in a map right away without having to download your data and clean it and fuss with it and try and transform it and get it structured properly, because it needs to be structured in a very specific way. So we built sumApp in order to do that. So sumApp is the data gathering tool. It's basically like a very snazzy survey for this specific purpose. And Kumu, so sumApp, we gather the data in sumApp, we put a link that goes straight into Kumu, and you can then visualize your data in Kumu, and then Kumu, we take an embed of Kumu and put it back into a tab in sumApp so that whomever is inputting their data in the survey can see it in Kumu or in the sumApp interface, so they don't have to go to from one platform to another platform. So it looks pretty seamless, but it's actually two pieces, and that can get a little confusing at first. So just want to let you know that. And then I think I'm gonna, so I just want to then introduce you to Lisa Negstad of Negstad Consulting, who is going to share the Human Systems Dynamics map with us today. And I will hand it over to Lisa and stop talking.
Thanks, Christine. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be with you today. I'm going to be sharing the Human Systems Dynamics Social System Map. It is a map of anyone who has been through practitioner training at the Human Systems Dynamics. And I'll have Kara maybe put the link in there so you can see what we're talking about. And this is anyone who's been through the training to become what's called a HSD professional. So it's getting a certification in the concepts of HSD. HSD is a way to understand how complexity works and how complex adaptive systems work, and an understanding, it's a theory and model of that, along with methods of how to work with that. And so I invite you to go to the website. There is a lot of information there. And it's also been a really great tool because it's about really understanding self-organizing systems, which networks are. And so it's been a really great kind of marriage of HSD and social system mapping. We find it to be really useful to look at, to use both of those together. I'm going to share my screen here and also just mention that I'm part of some other networks. A lot of them are sort of more focused in the Southeast Asia region. I've had a long connection there. And so some of the questions you're raising, I might kind of use that as an example to answer questions eventually too. But for now, we're focusing here on the Human Systems Dynamics map. And I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to invite Christine and Kara just to jump in at any point if I'm missing something. If something's not working like I'm expecting it to.
You're good
and
now.
We're starting here. But yeah, all good? Okay. Okay, we're starting here with the first page that shows up on a map when you come into it. I'm just doing it from Kumu, but you can also get to this from sumApp, as Christine just mentioned. And I'm going to just do a little orientation of the page, but actually, you know what? I'm going to do a little bit more orientation to this network, and then we'll dive into the map. So this network is associates of HSD who have completed the training. It's an map of individuals, and the purpose for the network is really that we wanted to be able to have that connection of anyone who's been to the training so that we can find each other. It's a global network. So you'll see different countries on this map. It's a place too where we can identify, we go through what's called a cohort when we become a HSD certified practitioner, and that cohort gets really close together because we've been through the training together. And so it's a way to identify both people we know and then other connections that those cohorts may have with others, and especially around different topics that people might be interested in, both different kind of areas of interest, but also different parts of human systems dynamics. There are up to 300 associates on here now, which was kind of fun to look at, because when we refreshed this map last year, there were only maybe 200. So we've had 100 additional individuals join this map in 1 year. We started it in 2018, and then we added some features and kind of refreshed it in 2021. It would have been kind of the beginning of 2021. And this is one of the things I love about social system mapping, is just how dynamic it is and emergent, and how you can learn from what we did at first and say, oh, that's not working, we need to shift this, or what can we do to get more people engaged? And then we go and change it to make it more engaging for people. There are, just to give you a sense of the full network, there are 850 or so associates, and we have 300 on the map. So we're still working to get a higher percentage on it. It's roughly a third that are on the map. And I just found this number somewhere. It's 20, I think we can see this on the Kumu map. There's 2,400 connections made on this map already. So this is also kind of a big one. I mean, I know there's a range of size of social system maps. This one is on the larger size in the sense that it takes a little while to load and everything. So we'll kind of see how that goes. I've got some different views loaded for you. All right, so we're on this first page, and now we can dive into the map and kind of look at some pieces here. So this is the first page that comes up when you come into it. And you'll see there's kind of two parts to it. On the left-hand side is this sidebar, and you'll see a scroll bar there. And this is where you can get some information about the map, and there's actually different views of the map data that you can click on and show. And so we'll come to those in a little while too, but right now we're just on the first view, which is a directory view. It's not showing connection, it's just simply showing everybody who's in the map. And so what I'm gonna do here is go to, move that. Yep.
Just wanna, so I just to clarify something for people for whom this is their first view of the social system map, this is the Kumu platform, and everything that Lisa is showing you is custom designed. So it could be set up very differently. This is sort of a set of norms for how, because we did the background, Lisa did the front end work for this map, and Tim and I, my partner and I, did the background work. And we have some norms for how we set maps up. But all of this, you could not have filters, you could not have different views, you could have your filters in different places. So this is none of what you're like, the interface piece is hard coded. So if you're feeling like, oh, I wouldn't want that view there first, it's up to you. It also, there's some technical learning, a bit of technical learning curve to be able to make it look the way it looks. When you first get in there, you just have a bunch of gray dots with lines, and then you would work with that to represent the data in the way that you want. So I just wanted to clarify that this interface is very open. It's like a blank canvas, and what we've done here is our design decisions. You might make different ones. Sorry, go ahead.
That's great. Yeah, and when Christine says front end, she means the survey that you send to the members of your network to gather the information that's going to go into the map. And so that's the part that I worked on along with Glenda O. Young, who's the founder of Human Systems Dynamics. She and I developed the surveys, and there are two different ones with the two different map versions I was telling you about as we evolved it. So yeah, this is one way to do it. And sometimes that is a place, it was really helpful to look at maps to see how others have done it, because it is such an open possibility of how it can get designed. And so That's really helpful that Christine mentioned that. So this is the way we decided on for now, and it's probably going to keep changing as well as we learn from it and learn what's most useful for this community.
I want to throw one more thing in. Lisa, I'm sorry. I want to throw one more thing. And when you said front end, you and Glenda didn't just design the survey. I mean, that sort of is a minimizing of you're actually designing a whole social process around learning and engaging and developing the thinking around what are we going to include, what are we not going to include. So that's actually bigger than just sort of, I'm going to make a survey and throw some questions in there. And I've learned a lot from you, from watching how you've done that in the various projects we worked on. So I just want to recognize and acknowledge that it's not just we made a survey like we did something in SurveyMonkey. It's bigger than that.
Well, and that's sweet of you to say, but I actually glad you said that because, right, it's there's a lot of thought that goes into those survey questions. And it's sort of this balance, I think, when you're starting a map of not getting to, when things are so open, you can pick all these different questions to ask. And so it can be overwhelming. And so just starting with some and then testing that can be really helpful. And that there is thought that goes into that. It's not, yeah, it's not just one survey and you're done. Yeah, so it's good to note that. And there's just this both and, I think, with doing maps where it can feel really open and hard because it's so open, and yet you can just try something and learn from it and then go from that and be adaptive. Okay, so as we dive into the map here, the first view we chose to do was a directory view. It just simply has anyone who's opted in on the map. It's an option. It's not like a requirement of getting the certification. And you'll see that some people loaded up their photos and some people have not. I'm going to go to a view here now where we take that side panel away, and you'll see there's 3 little buttons here and a little hand popping up. I'm going to take that sidebar away, and I'm going to come over to the top right. There's 3 buttons here that are super useful. Zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, and then this double arrow button that kind of fits it to your screen. So you'll see it pop up here, and you'll see the directory view of everyone who's in this network and has opted into the map. So one of the useful things here is the filters on a map, and we selected some different filters, and you'll see those over here on the upper left-hand corner of your map. And this is a place, like one layer you can start using a directory is if you want to find other people who are interested or in something that you're interested in, or maybe they're from the same country you're from, and you can start filtering. So let's say, like, I'm going to give an example where the HSD Institute wanted to do some focused sessions around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so one way they use this map is they came over and clicked on the interest. And there's a lot of different interest lists here. So any individual who opts in on the map is selecting their interest areas, and you can filter on diversity, equity, inclusion, and see all the names here of people who selected that as an interest. And then they can use that to send announcements to, or to highlight and connect with them to see if they're wanting to help be support in these sessions that they're having on DEI. So that's just one example. Just another example of using a filter is, let's say you are from the United Kingdom and you want to see who else has taken the HSD training from there, and see if you know them, and you can just click on that. There's a filter there. And just to remind you that when you only have 1/3 of the network on there, that's why we're trying to get more participation, because there might be other people in the UK who have taken HSD training, but they're not on the map. One way I like to use the filter is the cohort. So these are the different cohorts that have gone through HSD training. So I'm just going to click on mine.
Lisa,
I was in cohort 47.
Lisa, there's just a slight lag. So if you just,
okay.
Yeah, not a huge one, but enough that I'm thinking, I get alarmed that you're talking and I'm not seeing it yet, just barely. So just
okay,
slow down a little bit. Yeah.
Are you seeing it now? I can start to go to other
the
views
cohort
too.
drop-down list. Yeah, I'm seeing the cohort drop-down list now. Yep.
And there's only 4, there were a few others in my cohort, but there's 4 of us on the map. So if I wanted to go find them, let's say I want to connect again with Tina, I can click on her, highlight her, you'll see a pink circle. And then if I go over here to the 3 bars and pull out the side panel again, I have her individual information on the map. So I can connect with her. It's like, oh, Tina, I remember her from cohort 47. I want to check in with her. Let me go look at her information here. And people, I think their description and what they're, this is part of the survey questions that we ask, and it then is shared here where anyone can go find that. And people know that when you're filling out the survey, you tell them what's going to be there, and it's going to be a public map, and people make their option about what they're going to fill out. So I'm going to go back to, yep,
sorry,
go ahead. That's
I
great.
keep interrupting you. No, it in this particular map is a public map, but that's a decision that the community can make up front. A lot of our maps are private maps. So just this one is a public map, but it could be private as well. I'm done.
And that's actually a good point, Christine, because I know when you're working on a map and you're wanting, a lot of us, I'm working on other networks that want to make it a private map, but you're wanting to look at public ones to get ideas. And this one is on the HSD Institute website. So any of you have access to it to go look at it.
Yeah.
So let me show you a few other things that we use this for. And I'm going to actually go, I'm going to show you a view here, and I think I'm just going to show how to do it too, Christine. But
yeah.
So there's different views here. The directory view is the one we've been working with, where you just see individuals as their own separate node here. But then you have these different views where you can do models and methods, and that is the different kinds of models and methods we learn in HSD. And we ask people, you can see here, solid line, I know a lot about this one, or I want to know more about this. So it's kind of an asks and offers part, which is often a really useful thing to do in a social system map. I might show that view quickly here. I think we have time. So I'm going to click on that. It's just going to take a minute because it has to load. And you'll see what happens when we show that view.
It's still, no.
Yeah, it's even on my side, it's taken a while. So I may go to another view. Let's see what happens here. Oh, there it comes. I think you'll see it in a minute here.
Okay.
Is it starting to populate for you?
There, now it's beginning to, yeah.
Okay.
It's still not spread out yet though.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Just give it a minute.
Okay, now it's basically loaded.
Okay. So you may not be able to see what all of these models and methods are here, but what I'm gonna do is highlight on one. I'm gonna highlight on conflict circles. And then I'm gonna go over to this focus button in the upper right-hand corner and click on that. So we can just see who's selected conflict circles. Either they selected it as something that they feel like they have used and know a lot about, and those are the solid lines, and that means they're offering experience in this model to others in the network. So we call that an offer, and you see the legend in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. And then we have also the dotted lines, which is people who would like to know a little bit more or get more understanding of how this model's used. And those dotted lines you'll see there. So those are people who are making an ask about this model. So if I'm going to go use this with the client, the conflict circles, this is one way I'd use the map. As I come and look at this and I'd say, oh, I've only done this once or twice. I'd like to check out and see who here has made an offer. Is there anybody I know? Is there anybody I know who knows somebody who is an expert in conflict circles? And I might use it that way. So I'm going to go now. This is just one other view that we use. It's a way to show, you know, we could do this around opportunities and challenges that people have in their work. Any of these kind of offers and asks or ways that you want to connect people, it's up to you and your network and the way that would be useful. But I'm going to go to another view now, and this is already preloaded for you. This is the third view that if you were in the side panel, this is the connections view. So now you're starting to see all the lines between the individuals in the network. And you'll see there's all, since there's 300 people in this, it's a pretty dense web. And on the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see there's 294 elements. So that's 294 individuals. And then you'll see the number of connections, 2,494. And so this is every individual who has gone in and taken time to go into sumApp and connect with the other individuals they know. So they especially know the people in their cohort, but often they'll know others, right, who are part of this network. They might have been a part of some kind of training with HSD, or they might know them in some other way. They might live in the same city and run in some similar networks. And so that shows those. Now, sometimes people are in here and they are connected with people, but they haven't filled out their connections yet. And so those people on the outer part here of the visual that you're seeing, we don't know for sure if they're just not that connected to people who are currently on the map, or if they just haven't taken time to fill out their connections yet. So one of the things we would do, or I would do as a map, kind of the map leader, the person who's offered to volunteer and take this on, is I might reach out to them and say, have you filled out your connections yet? And encourage them to go in and do that. That's one of the things that to keep the social system map most useful, is that everybody, there's this kind of learning curve for people to realize they're not just putting their information on the map one time, but it's a continual process, because as other people add to the map, then you're adding your connection to them. And so it's getting people to have this understanding that it's a live thing that we all need to be involved in and go back in and check and use as we're ongoing way. So this is one of the ways we might use the connections. I'm going to show you a cool view that we can do in a map. It's called the showcase view. So let's say I'm going to pick on a guy named Griffiths, who is a HSD professional based in the UK. And I just searched for him so that I can highlight him. And then I'm going to go back to the full view, and I'm going to give it a minute because it's probably taking a minute. But Christine, if you could just tell me when you're back to seeing the full view, and then the little pink dot that is Griff. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the cool things that we can do in social system mapping is called the showcase view. And it gives you this view of the whole system, and then you can pull out parts of this whole system. So if I hover over Griff and just put my cursor on him, I haven't clicked on anything, I'm just putting on it. You can see how his connections fit within the bigger system. So it's just one piece of information that I think there's lots of different ways you could use this kind of view. But I think it's such a neat thing that you can do here. And then let's say, okay, I know Griff is in the UK. I want to see kind of what connections he has, because I'm in the UK trying to connect with people. So I'm going to click on him. And I'm going to focus in. I went up to that top right corner. I'm focusing in and seeing his connections. There's quite a few. He's well known in the HSD community. And then I'm going to actually just go to the country though, because I'm interested right now in the UK. I'm moving to the UK and I really want to connect here. I know Griff, and let me see who else he knows. And they're all, and these are the other ones who are in the UK. So another use you might have for it, just to kind of show you different ways you can use the connections. Now, let me just show you the strength of connection. I went to the bottom right-hand corner of this, and the connecting lines between the individuals have different strengths tied to them, which is tied to the, I don't know how to say this right. It's tied to the width of the line, right? It's how I don't remember how you say that, Christine, but so the stronger connection, the darker the line. And the less strong, the weaker the connection, the more the line is, you'll see there, it's kind of not very, it's pretty faint. And that is the different levels here from I've met this person, and that's your least strong line, and then up to I've collaborated with this person in the past year, which is going to be your darkest line. So I may start with, okay, you know, who has Griff collaborated with in the past year, and see if he's willing to connect me with them as I'm doing some networking in the UK. Now, again, this is only as good as people going back in and putting their connections in every time somebody is adding themselves to the map. So you can see here, Griff has connected himself to all of these people with his level of strength, and then others have connected back to him or not, or they haven't yet. And we don't know why. We don't know if it's because they have a different perception of the relationship, or they haven't done their connections yet. But sometimes these connections pieces are really interesting. Like, for example, I've done networks where there's funders and grantees in the same network social system map. And you'll see, I mean, funders kind of end up being at the center. And so a lot of grantees will connect to them with a stronger line than the funders funding the other way, which I think is a really good point for funders to look at, right? If you're trying to create more mutual relationships, and it's just one way that a social system map can kind of cause this question in this moment. But there's also just reality too. And like Glenda O. Young, who is in this map, everybody's going to connect to her because she's the teacher for everybody here. And it's going to be a really strong connection line. But her connection line back out to everybody else is probably not going to be as strong, just because there's so many people and she's in a different role, right, for the network. So I think there's a lot of just like, you can see how you can dig in and ask these really great questions about connections and network using the map. I think I'm going to stop there and just share a few lessons learned and then see what questions you have. So some of the lessons learned that we have had with, I'm going to just go back to the main view here. It'll just take a minute while I go through this. So we learned in the HSD practitioner map that I'm just showing you is that it's really helpful to have a person who is kind of focused on thinking about the engagement and keeping people interested, coming into the regular meetings and reminding people of it. I already said this, but when we started the survey, don't ask too many questions at first, to keep it small and test it, and then come back and add questions. And then helping nodes learn how to use it. So actually having moments where the HSD community is gathering, where we have them go into the map and try different things. So they're kind of practicing different things on the map. You know, it can feel intimidating when you see all of this. And so just a lot of reassuring everybody too, that you can't break anything. Go in, try it out, go look at different things, look at different views. One thing that's great about this side panel is that it has the side panel tips. So you can read through that. It gives you just short ways to do shortcuts in Kumu. Again, all of those are adjustable too to what you think will be most helpful for your community diving in and using the map. And then we're talking about in the future having a small committee who might kind of keep testing and trying things with the map. We have a natural in to add people as there's a cohort that's graduating. Part of what they do at the end of that is they ask people to join the map and send out a link and do that. But I think we're still kind of working on the in between, some of the people who are from real previous cohorts, how do we get them interested? And it's always this ongoing kind of challenge that we're working on. So I'm going to stop there and just see what questions or thoughts you're having about this map. And Christine, add anything in there too.
That was great. Thanks.
I think you can unmute or you can put it in the chat, whatever feels most comfortable.
for the, go ahead, Priya.
Could you share a story of how two people collaborated, or the last time that you used this map to collaborate with someone and it turned into something like what all information, and just a story, just to understand this tool better, if it's all right. I hope the question's not too basic.
It's good. It's a good question.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Christine and I can share this story together, but last year we've done a few, there's a monthly session that anyone's invited to that Human Systems Dynamics does. It's like, I think it's the first Thursday of the month. Glenda does a training session. And I think, I don't remember if Glenda gave us those times or if we did I think we did a separate time, Christine, where we invited the HSD community. And it was really cool because some of the concepts we learn in this training about self-organizing systems and kind of the parts of those complex adaptive systems, we used that training and that moment to look at the map and use our model and method. And there was a lot of insight in that. It's kind of still an abstract story because I can't remember right now. I just remember that some of the people in that they were having some ahas about both our own network, but also how they could be using the models and methods of HSD because of what they saw happening in the map. So I don't know, it's maybe a little bit too vague and abstract of a story, but that's the one that came to mind for me. Christine, I don't know if you want to add to that or.
I always draw a blank when people want to, I have a hard time perceiving and sharing, remembering and sharing the stories of maps. So that's like a gap in just about me somehow. And but it is also just often the stories are unseen by the map makers because other people are, they're connecting or they're not, they're doing stuff. And so part of what I've been thinking about a lot more lately is finding ways of gathering, like, going out of our way to gather those stories and begin to share them and store them and share them in some way so that, but maybe, I'm thinking maybe Jim or someone else has a story, or yeah, Lisa.
Actually in chat, Kristen has a story.
Okay.
She put it in chat and then we'll go to Mary's question.
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Well, hi, everybody. It's actually really fun to see this because I'm part of the HSD community, so I didn't realize that we were going to look at HSD maps today. And so because HSD is a training and it provides kind of a common language for people that are interested in complexity, one of the things that I did do when I was working in the UK was search exactly who are the people in the UK and who does evaluation related to networks in the UK. And it surfaced right away a set of people. And so it's fun even to just I just looked at it again and I'm like, oh, yeah, I wonder what has happened to Griff. Like I'm realizing I haven't connected with them, but I'll be going next month to Scotland and I'm staying with somebody who's a HSD person. So I'll be in touch with her and I'll say, hey, let's get on the map and see when we're there, who might we want to convene to sort of catch up on what are people focusing on now in their work? Where are they getting stuck? Are there connections we can help people make? So it'll be a way that we kind of have a party and probably still be virtual with COVID. But I've used it as a shorthand because all the work I do, I work on teams. And so if I can work with somebody who already has HSD certification, it tells me something about we're going to be able to shorthand because we know certain things. So I would look, I'm looking at the map now, I'm looking at the UK, and then I'm realizing oh, I'm going to have to go in and dig in to see which of these folks are in Scotland. But it has been helpful as I've thought about, this is visits, but I have looked for it before when I've written RFPs for projects. If I need a particular perspective from a particular place in the world, I would use it to scan skill set and and have a conversation. So I hope that helps, Priya.
It does. Seems like without the map, it would have taken 25 steps maybe, and then the map just cuts it down to 3 steps.
I think that's the goal, and I think the part of the challenge that, Lisa named, but the person who is the hub, who's like the hub, is the person who founded HSD and still does most of the teaching. So you could always like go through her or through her next closest. But ideally in a network, and you're starting to see the pattern here, is that there's enough of a core that you only do have to make 1 or 2 or 3 calls to say like, hey, have you done this, or have you worked with them before? What's been your experience? And so I think the cool thing about what Lisa and Christine have created is that it's gonna, as somebody who's part of this community, but like was part early on, to be able to come back and then see, yeah, how can I be 1 or 2 steps away from somebody and not have to go back to the Glenda or back to the Royce, who have many, many, many relationships to manage.
I just thought of a story. I'm going to share it. So one of the things Glenda has done with this map is use it to see where the hot spots in people's interests are, and then also to see what models and methods have more people who don't know about them than do know about them, and then do some design around some convening and target invite those people who are interested in learning more about that model or method within a specific kind of interest hotspot context. So you can do it for designing a lot of your programming. Use the map to do that. So that's another. See, I have, they go past me. I just takes a minute for them to come to surface. Yeah. Should we go to?
Yeah, I appreciate that question because it's making me kind of reminding me to think of that too. So thanks for that question.
Yeah.
And then Mary put in a question too about 2 surveys and how did you grow the survey? So yes, we started with 1 survey, and we realized, oh, I'm trying to remember the difference between the 2 right now. I'm going to stop sharing and go try to look at something that might help me answer this. And Christina, if you remember too.
Totally don't remember.
Oh, I know one thing that happened. So when we started with the first survey, we had quite a few open-ended questions. And, that is harder in mapping. And I think we just didn't know how that would play out. We were kind of testing the limitations of the social system mapping framework. And so, and it's too hard to search for that, right? Like you'd have to really do some programming with all that open-ended questions. So in the next level, you don't just do away with the previous survey. You look at what's been useful and build on that. And so I think what we did is realize that the open-ended questions aren't as useful. How can we get a little bit clearer? And I think we got clearer on the models and methods part. And I think we added offers and asks. No, we maybe had that from the beginning, but that was one of the major things we did. And then we also really wanted to get clear about and ask back to Glenda and Royce, who are the founding directors of HSD Institute, about, is this a map that you want to stay as people who are certified, or do you want to broaden it out to the whole community? And having this like pretty rigorous discussion about that, like what's the use of this? Do we want to do that or not? And there was this decision at the final decision to keep it for those who've been through the certification training. But that just is an example of the kind of things that can come up, because other people have asked to be on the map, and we needed to clarify that. So then that was the next step too, of making sure that was clear on the survey. That's a great question.
So, so was it really 1 survey, or it really wasn't 2 surveys?
Technically, you mean
Right.
2 different projects. Yeah. It was just 1.
Yeah.
It was just 1 that we adapted. Yep.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Christine, do we still have time for more questions, or you just let me know?
Yeah, no. Yeah, we can, Jim.
Lisa, did the use of open-ended questions versus choice questions that you can search on easily, do you have any practices within the group? You say come back to this on a regular basis, where you dig into the open-ended questions and all the richness that comes from that.
We did not do that. I think, my recall is not great because that was kind of from quite a few years ago, but I think not many people took a lot of, like, the answers we were getting, there weren't fully complete sentences and answers that we wanted. So if I remember that part correctly, but yeah, I'm sorry, I just can't answer that because we focus more on going forward and adapting the survey for new information, and we did dive into that.
My sense around that is that people get really energized about answering the questions, a chance to voice something personal, passionate about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a certain period of time where people are interested in reading that. Maybe with 300 people on the map, it starts to become difficult to sort through that. But there is an energy around having those open-ended questions and about, just being able to voice, I just wondered what the ways are of harvesting that energy.
Yeah, I think in my experience, it really depends on the context, like the relationships that are already there and when you add the map and how big the map is. So there's just a lot of variables, because sometimes it's just like people are like, wow, you really made me think. I had to do, and they get really excited. And I think it's contextual. I don't think there's a right or wrong. I think it really depends on the context and what's already there and what leverages what's already there. That's my impression. So, and that's why I feel like you have to test it out. And then sometimes, like at first, you'll get people saying that's too much. And then if you say, just don't answer it, you don't have to answer it. But eventually, like, people's feelings about it change as well. How they interact with it change as well. So it's an ongoing testing and sensing and testing and shifting and tweaking and testing. It's my experience. I'm prepared to show how to update. So someone put in the chat. I pulled up my instance of the HSD map, but I can do that. Or Lisa, go ahead.
I have it too. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you do. You go do it then. I didn't know if you wanted to get ready to do that.
Tell me if you're seeing the right thing here.
Not yet. No, we are. At least I am.
So when you get a link to go in the map, this is the first page you'll land on.
And again, this is sumApp for those of you
Are
who
you seeing?
Yeah. Yeah, we're on the bio page. You're on the bio page. Yep.
And am I understanding the question correct? This is how to update your information, because you'll get a link, and this is the first page that'll show up when you get a link. And you'll see across the top 4 menu items: bio, profile, connections, and then you can go to the map here. And so here's where you put in your bio. You can put a picture of yourself and then put in your bio here, and then you can proceed, and it'll take you to that next menu item, which is the survey questions, the profile. And this is where you'd put all your information in there, or you can go change it. And then once you do that, you can click on the bottom again and go to next. And then this is where you update your connections. And you'll see the ones that are grayed out. I've already made a connection with, like, Christine here I've already clicked on her and picked out 5, collaborated with person in the last year, and saved that. But I haven't done, the people that I don't know at all, I'm not clicking on them. But there might be somebody that has been added to the map that I might know. I don't see any yet. But you'll see the ones that
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just thinking, Jim, I know Jim's on the map and you might not be connected to him on the map. You could search.
I think I am, but
Okay.
what? Jim. Okay, I'm looking.
Or Kristen.
Oh, I'm not on. I am not on his. Jim, I just connected to you on the map. Yay. Yeah, maybe I'm not connected to Kristen yet, but yeah, so you'll see how that works. Yeah, you see how that works. I hope that I'm looking at time here. So hopefully that gives that explanation.
Cool. Thank you.
I'll turn it back to you, Christine, for the wrap up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great. Really appreciate your how you walked us through it. It was very helpful. So we will, for those of you who need to jump off, I'm going to just, sorry. Sometimes my head, like there's too many things trying to come out at once in decisions, and I apologize. Just pause and stop myself. So for our goodbye ritual, what we do is we all unmute, and then I count down 3, 2, 1. And when I get to 1, we just all give each other our blessings and our greetings and send each other off with love and blessings for the day, or however you want to frame that for yourself. And so we'll go ahead and do that. And then just remember, if you want to stick around for the for just an informal, more questions, chat, get to know people, whatever, for the extra half hour, just still do the goodbye ritual for those who are leaving, and then just don't jump off. And we'll once everybody's checked out, then we'll see who remains and what they want to talk about. So if you want to do this with us, go ahead and unmute. And we'll do 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Lisa, nice to meet you. Christine.
It was nice to meet you all and be with you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.